The Yith-Karu Empire had conquered 400 worlds. They had broken the will of warrior races twice their size, burned the cities of the Drenak, and enslaved the proud Vorlati navies. In 11,000 years, no species had ever made them retreat. Then they found Earth. It took them 6 hours to win the war. It took them 6 years to realize they hadn't. Sergeant Daniel Reyes had been a prisoner of the Yith-Karu for 2 years. To his captors, he was a curiosity, not a threat. Humans were small. Humans were slow. Humans didn't have claws, venom, or armored hide. The guards called him the Vermin. It amused them. What they never asked was the only question that mattered. Why, out of every species the Empire had conquered, was Earth the only one still fighting back 2 years later? Because Reyes wasn't just a prisoner, he was bait. And the trap had been 700 days in the making. High Commander Vexus Thal didn't believe in human ingenuity. He believed in numbers. 400 conquered worlds had taught him that bigger always won. So when Reyes began cooperating, giving up scraps of information about human shipyards, fuel depots, comm relays, Vexus took the bait without question. He sent 40 warships to crush what Reyes described as humanity's last shipyard. It wasn't a shipyard. It was a graveyard humans had built themselves, and it was rigged to swallow anything that entered. 31 ships never came home. The other 9 limped back carrying a message Vexus refused to believe. Humans hadn't been hiding their weakness. They'd been hiding their patience. Vexus didn't see a trap. He saw an insult. And insulted commanders make the second mistake worse than the first. They get personal. Reyes had given Vexus exactly what humanity wanted him to take: confidence. 2 years of vermin jokes had taught the Empire nothing about the one thing that actually wins wars: adaptation. While the Empire treated Earth as a backwater to be mopped up at leisure, human engineers had spent 2 years reverse engineering every piece of alien tech they could scavenge. Shield harmonics, weapon frequencies, jump drive signatures. Not to match the Empire's strength, to exploit its blind spots. Furious and humiliated, Vexus made his third mistake. He ordered Reyes personally transported to the Empire's Central Tribunal, to be made an example of in front of cameras, broadcast to all 400 conquered worlds. He wanted to show the galaxy what happened to species that resisted. He never noticed the unmarked ship riding in his own ship's sensor shadow the entire way. Reyes had known the transport route for 6 months. Humanity had simply been waiting for the Empire to choose it themselves. Standing in chains before the tribunal of 400 worlds, broadcast to billions, Reyes finally spoke the words he'd been saving for 2 years. "You never asked why we stopped fighting back where you could see us." At that exact moment, every reverse-engineered jamming signal humanity had built went active across the sector simultaneously. Disabling shields on every Yith-Karu vessel in range, broadcasting on the dead frequency the Empire had never bothered to defend because they assumed no one beneath them could find it. 43 human ships decloaked around the station. Not an army, a scalpel, built for exactly one target at exactly one moment when the Empire's guard would be down and its cameras would be rolling for every conquered world to see. Reyes broke his own restraints his interrogators had grown careless about checking, because vermin don't pick locks. The battle that followed wasn't a slaughter, it was a message, delivered with surgical precision to every species watching. The Yith-Karu Empire could be beaten, not through size, not through claws or venom, but through patience, study, and the willingness to be underestimated for as long as it took. Vexus Thal watched his empire's perfect record end on the one broadcast meant to prove it unbreakable. Reyes didn't address the empire when it was over. He looked instead at the delegates of 400 conquered worlds, watching in silence. "You've been calling us vermin for 2 years," he said. "Vermin survive everything you throw at them. Maybe it's time you asked what that actually means." Word of the tribunal spread faster than the Empire could suppress it. For the first time in 11,000 years, conquered worlds began to whisper a question the Ith-Karu had never had to answer before. If the smallest species in the galaxy could do this, what happens when the others stop being afraid? This is just the beginning of the Reyes saga. If you want to see the Empire's response, and what happens when 400 worlds start asking questions the Ith-Karu can't answer, subscribe and turn on notifications. The Ith-Karu Empire had a secret older than its conquest of Earth, a weapon they swore never to use again. 3,000 years ago, they sealed it away for being too dangerous, too unpredictable, too willing to burn entire worlds to finish a job. After the tribunal humiliation, the Synod broke that seal. They woke the Reckoner, and they pointed it at one address: Earth. News of Vexus Thal's defeat reached the Ith-Karu Synod within hours. 400 conquered worlds had watched their empire bleed on live broadcast, and for the first time in 11,000 years, the Synod was afraid, not of Earth, but of what Earth's defiance might inspire elsewhere. They didn't send a fleet. Fleets could be ambushed. Fleets could be predicted. Instead, they woke something that predated diplomacy entirely. The Reckoner was not a commander. It was a single hunter-caste warrior, bred and conditioned for one purpose: erase problems before they spread. It had ended 3 rebellions in Ith-Karu history. Each time the Empire sealed it away afterward, because each time the cost of using it had been almost as terrible as the threat it removed. On Earth, Sergeant Daniel Reyes received the warning from an unlikely source: a coded transmission buried in the commercial satellite static sent by a Ith-Karu officer who had watched the tribunal broadcast and quietly decided the Empire's methods had gone too far. "They're not sending soldiers," the message read. "They're sending an ending." Vexus Thal, stripped of his fleet and his rank, sat alone in a detention bay aboard his former flagship, listening to the same warning through stolen channels. He understood something Reyes didn't yet. The Reckoner wouldn't just target Earth's defenses. It would target everything that made Earth's victory possible: its engineers, its hidden shipyards, its people. For the first time since the war began, Vexus Thal found himself hoping humanity would win. The episode ends with the Reckoner's ship breaching the edge of Earth. The Reckoner didn't attack military targets first. It attacked the one thing Earth couldn't afford to lose and couldn't afford to defend: a civilian convoy carrying 12,000 refugees deep in territory humanity's fleet wasn't built to reach in time. Reyes had 30 minutes to decide who he could save, and who he'd have to let the Empire take. Full narration. The convoy was supposed to be safe. 12 transport ships, ferrying refugees from a bombed colony back toward Earth's defended core, traveling a route humanity had used a dozen times without incident. The Reckoner found it anyway. It didn't attack with weapons first. It attacked with silence, disabling comm relays so the convoy couldn't call for help, then picking off escort ships one at a time, methodically, the way a predator separates a herd. Reyes received the distress signal 40 minutes late, by which point 3 of 12 transports were already gone. He had one strike team within range, the same ship that had broken him out of the tribunal. Engaging the Reckoner directly meant near-certain death. Ignoring the convoy meant losing thousands of civilians the Empire would use as proof that resistance only invited worse. Vexus Thal, watching from his stripped-down detention transport with stolen access to Ith-Karu battle telemetry, made the choice that would define the rest of his life. He broke encryption protocols he'd sworn to protect for 30 years and fed Reyes the Reckoner's exact attack pattern, the same predictable, ruthless efficiency that had ended 3 rebellions before this one. "It hunts like every hunter caste warrior before it," Vexus transmitted. "It has never fought something that refuses to run." Reyes didn't run. He turned his single-strike ship directly into the Reckoner's path, broadcasting on every frequency the convoy still had left. Not a surrender, but coordinates. He gave the Reckoner exactly 1 target to chase, buying the surviving 9 transports the seconds they needed to scatter into a debris field too dense for clean pursuit. The Reckoner caught up to him anyway. The last image, transmitted from Reyes's ship before contact was cut, wasn't fear. It was Reyes, calm, repeating 4 words that would later become the rallying cry of every human who heard the recording. "Vermin, don't run." To be continued in Episode 4. Episode 4. Old enemies, new allies. Reyes's ship went dark for 6 days. The Empire declared him dead and broadcast it as proof the Reckoner was unstoppable. Earth believed it too, until a battered transport limped into orbit, carrying 2 passengers nobody expected to see standing side by side. Sergeant Daniel Reyes, alive, and Vexus Thal, the Empire's disgraced commander, now humanity's most unlikely